everyone. Thank you for coming. By my watch, it's 6:31, so I think we can begin now. I'm delighted to welcome you all to this meeting, both those of you here in the auditorium and, of course, those of you watching online. My name is Jenny Gregory, and I'll be chairing the proceedings as Warden of Convocation. Those of us here tonight are on Noongar Whadjuk land, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Sandra Harben to you. Sandra is Whadjuk Noongar elder with connections to Ballardong Noongar country as well, and she will welcome us. Thank you, Sandra.
So kaya everyone. Kaya means hello in Noongar. But I could also say Quop Kedilak, which means good evening. So Quop Kedilak to you all as well. Thank you, Jenny, for that introduction. And she's probably told you enough about me, that I'm a Whadjuk Noongar woman, but with connections to Ballardong. And why we say what our connections are is important, because that's my geographical land, or that's my Budja. And from the Budja comes our family, all our clan groups, where we get our karajan, our knowledge. And so it's always important to share that, because you never know who's out there and needs to know my connection as a Noongar. I probably don't really need to share this, but I think it's really important that it's sort of a reminder for everyone, and that is it's important to acknowledge that Australia's Aboriginal cultures are the oldest and continuous living cultures in the world. And I always love everyone to give a shout of praise. So, Wula. Beautiful, yeah. Wula. And, the Noongar Nation is the largest cultural block, and I'm sure you all knew that. Our Budja, or our land, goes from this side of Geraldton in an arc around the wheat belt towns all the way down to Minang or Albany, and then back up the Wardan, up the coast. And so there's 14 Noongar language groups that sit within the Budja there. And so we've got a big piece of Budja, haven't we? So no wonder we're the largest cultural block in Australia. I also like to acknowledge my Noongar elders, past, present. And it's also important to acknowledge other Aboriginal people, your elders, so I extend that acknowledgement to them. So to your elders, past and present as well. I'll throw this in. I graduated from UWA back in 1994, and it's a long time now, but I can remember at the time it seemed only like yesterday. But if I look at the years, it's been a long time. So it's always lovely to come back to UWA, because I've got really, really, really good memories of being here. I'd also like to acknowledge the Vice-Chancellor, Amit Chakma. Thank you. I'd also like to give my respects to Professor Jane Den Hollander, the guest speaker here this evening, and also to the Guild President, Jimal. And, of course, Emirate Professor Jenny Gregory. And it's through Jenny that I was invited here to do this welcome here this evening. You all know that you're sitting here, or you're nyinning here on Whadjuk Noongar land. Is that right? Yep. And so it's probably a pretty special piece of Budja where we're here this evening. And because we know that there are really significant places for Noongar people and historical places, and lots of dreaming stories for us that has been shared over the years. And so just over that way. I'm sure you're all familiar with where we're sitting and where the land markers are. But Jinangingbo or Karakata, which is we should have changed it to the Queen's Park, but King's Park. So it's very apt now for it to be King's Park when the new king is crowned. So that's a really important place. So we're told that our ancestors hunted and gathered around this place, and they used to sit up on the Jinangingbo, which means in Noongar, a place to see a long way. And I could imagine that the Noongar clan groups that sat on Jinangingbo would look out right across to the Karamunda, right across to the Darling Scarp. And the Noongar name Karamunda simply means the Black Hills, because I think if you stand from anywhere from a distance, the Darling Scarp always looks black, doesn't it? And I live near the Darling Scarp now, and I was thinking, I wonder if it's still going to look black to me. And interestingly enough, it's still got that dark haze to it, so I was quite pleased with that, because I love the Karamunda. And so the Noongar would have looked out, and saw all the many kala, many campfires. And so that was a signal to them that the Noongar people were moving here into Whadjuk country from Balladong or Ewart or Binjarab country. And of course, they would all come and cross over the Martagarup. Anyone know where Martagarup is? Yeah, that's the name of the new bridge. So just down from there was the Noongar place named Martagarup, because your mart is your leg. Did you know that? Your mart is your leg. And Garup means the place where they made the leg holes, because it was very muddy, you see. And so when the Noongar families would walk across Martagarup, they would leave behind the leg holes when they crossed over to go into Boorloo, into the city centre. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that the government very wisely consulted with the Noongar people and said, can we call it Martagarup? So it's like a bridge, it's a crossing, isn't it? Not quite the leg holes, but at least it's symbolic, and reminds every one of us that it was an important crossing, because the other crossing that the Noongar people had was down in Walyalup, was down in Fremantle, but it was blown up. So hence Martagarup became a very, very important crossing for all Noongar people who travelled into the Boorloo, as they had done for thousands of years, or since the Nyirin. And there's lots of stories that connect here from this Budja, in fact all the way up to Uluru. And they're interesting dreaming stories. And I'm sure that if you visit the Bilya Mali, there's a big map there that identifies all of the Noongar dreaming stories that connect from here, from Whadjuk country, to the other side of the country. And they're very important dreaming stories for us. And so we know that Noongar people sat on the Budja around here, and as we say, they shared Kadajan. So just as you're all doing here tonight. And as I was walking down towards this building, I saw the Kadajan Biddy. Anyone know what that means? The knowledge trail. But they were all going to the accounts section. So accounting, and I thought, oh, so how apt that it's called the knowledge trail. So the Kadajan Biddy. And so I was asked just to share a little bit, about the history of the place, or the connection that Noongar people have, because we know that Yalagonga and his family further down from here was first met by the boat coming up, and he put his hand out in friendship and invited Sterling to come in, and of course they shook hands and Yalagonga moved away. So for thousands of years this place had been a place of knowledge, and so it's lovely to see that it continues to be a place of knowledge. So I'm going to do the welcome now, and I'm going to ask you to join in the first language of this land. Would you like to do that? Thank you. So kaya and wanjira wajak nyunga buja and Kurt is chirping to be wangan with Nuna Kurt, Ye and Miller and Burdawan. You know, Kura ngan mort kurling on the buja, and they yinning and they ne Khalijan. Kura. That's why ngan can yakin Kedlak. So what I said was my heart, my court, is very happy. And I'm really happy to be here to do the welcome this evening to the to your very, very important meeting and to conduct important business. And I said, my ancestors, my old people, they all sat on the land and they listened to one another and they shared knowledge, because that was the only way that our knowledge was passed on in the oral tradition. So communicating orally and listening was really, really important. And what I also said was that's why I can stand here this evening, because I did sit and listen to my elders, and I was very fortunate to grow up in an extended family with lots in our household, and where culture and language and stories were always shared, and had amazing experiences growing up in country towns, going out bush and learning about the bush foods and everything, and then coming up to Perth to live, or to Wajak country, but always being able to go back and connect with all my murtung, because that's where I continue to keep the stories alive and to share. So I think that being a Noongar was a real privilege, and it is a real privilege, because I get to live in the Wadjala world and the Noongar world, and to keep our history and our language alive. Now, I'll say 2 words at a time, and you can, because I don't know, do you reckon you could handle 4 at a time? Oh, good. All right, I'll give you 4. So, Yarl Kor Kwabada Weirn. Yarl Kor Kwabada Weirn. And Wort Kor Wara Weirn. Wort Kor Wara Weirn. Beautiful. So you see, you spoke for a whole, 30 seconds in Noongar language. It's wonderful. And it's probably more than you've ever done in your short life, or you young men and women out there. I'm just joking, I mean everyone. So yeah, it's lovely to, for me as a Noongar to hear the language, and for you all to appreciate that and to join in and share, because I'd love to hear more people, learn the language and speak the language, because it's very welcoming, and it's makes me feel really, really comfortable. And I have met people here from UWA, Wadjalas, who said, I've learnt Noongar, and I went to a function in Perth and they came up to me and said, Kaya, ngan such and such, and I went, wow, that is fantastic. And so we had a little conversation in Noongar, and I felt really good. So what we said, and it's important that the good spirits hear your voice, because when you're out there on the Buja, you've already spoken to them in Noongar and they understood what you said. And so Welcome to Country is about asking them to come here and to keep you safe and to protect you. So the good spirits, they're the Quabbara spirits. And we also told the bad spirits, the negative energy, to leave. And because we want to create a really good space and keep you all safe and protect you. And then just finally, I think it's important for everyone to be walling. So I'm going to say Yarl Kor to the Quabbara Weirn, and so that Nunuk can have a Quabbara court, a Mridich cart, and a Mridich Weirn. So what I said was, Warrong is, I've asked the good spirits to bring good health to you all, to give you a strong mind, a good and beautiful heart, and a strong spirit. Because I think being mentally and physically healthy and have a strong spirit is really important. So I don't say goodbye, I say Bridawan. So see you later. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your generous welcome, Sandra, and for sharing some Noongar language with us as we try and follow your lead. Thank you. So, tonight we have graduates joining us from all parts of Western Australia, from interstate and from across the globe. And so good evening and good afternoon and good morning to those of you who are watching from Canada, Chile, China, Ghana, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Turkey and the United Kingdom. Thank you for coming along to join us. Towards the end of the formal proceedings of our general meeting, we look forward to a talk presented by Emerita Professor Jane Den Hollander AO. Also, all questions on notice have been registered before the meeting with me via the convocation officer, and we'll also endeavour, if we've got time, to answer some questions from the floor. So I now formally declare the meeting open at 6:46. I welcome the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Amit Chakma, the Guild President, Mr. Jimal, and now I get into trouble here, Jaya Wickrama, is that okay? Thank you. And also Professor Jane Den Hollander, welcome. Also, I know that our Chief Advancement Officer, Fiona Allen, is online, so welcome to you, Fiona. Any members of Senate who are here, members of Convocation Council, and all the members of Convocation and their guests and friends, we're really delighted that you've come along to join us this evening. I've received apologies from more than 500 graduates, and their names will be recorded in the minutes. If anyone wants to convey additional apologies, please send them to Juanita Perez, the Convocation Officer, who will record the details. That's at convocation@uwa.edu.au. I'll now move to item 3 on the meeting agenda, and that is the minutes of the spring ordinary meeting, which we held on Friday the 15th of September last year, and they're included in the agenda booklet for this meeting. No requests to amend the minutes have been received, but I have a motion from someone who attended the meeting to move acceptance of the minutes, and I believe that was, yes, thank you, Adjunct Professor Warren Kerr AM. Thanks, Warren. And we have someone who seconds the motion too. Thank you, Mr. Jeff Gunningham. Thank you. I'll now ask all those who were at the meeting, participating in the meeting that was held on the 15th of September 2022, to indicate their approval for confirmation of the minutes by a show of hands. All those in favour? Yes, thank you. Moving to item 5, this is quite a formal agenda, as you will guess. Agenda 5 on the agenda, that's the business arising from the minutes of the last ordinary meeting. The webinar, unfortunately, doesn't really allow us to have discussion. So if any member has got any business that comes out of that previous meeting, please again contact the Convocation Officer and we'll do what we can to answer any queries you may have. We receive an awful lot of correspondence at Convocation, both emails and letters, and they're largely addressed by myself and Juanita Perez, the Convocation Officer. So I really thank all the members of Convocation who took the time to contact me and Convocation Council more generally over the last 6 months, we really value your views on issues important to convocation. And we know, for example, that I think at our last meeting I spoke about a strategic plan, and that went up online, and we were really pleased to have some comments back from people, because this is really valuable for us to know what you think about what we're doing. So, item 7 on the agenda, which are the results of the elections for Warden, Deputy Warden, members of the Council of Convocation. So, in accordance with clause 45(1) of the UWA statute, Convocation approves an electronic voting process and a postal voting process for elections. And in accordance with the UWA Act 1911 and UWA Statutes Chapter 4, the annual elections were held this year to fill the following positions: Warden of Convocation and Deputy Warden of Convocation, they are 1-year positions, and 9 ordinary members of the Council of Convocation, 6 of whom are elected for 3 years, 1 for 2 years, and 2 of whom are elected for 1 year. That's because of the rotational cycle. So to ensure the utmost probity in the conduct of these elections, Convocation Council a couple of years ago took the decision to outsource the conduct of these elections. And this year, Convocation Council appointed Corp Vote Proprietary Limited to undertake the election process, as they did in the previous year. So, to the results. At the close of nominations on Thursday the 1st of December last year, the following were elected unopposed. The Warden of Convocation, me, elected for 1 year, and the Deputy Warden, Dr. David Griffiths, elected unopposed as well. Unfortunately, David's not able to be with us this evening. Now, as there were only 8 candidates for the 9 positions of Ordinary Convocation Councillor, the following members have been elected unopposed in, and I'll read them in alphabetical order: Matthew Budge, 3 years; Harriet Calverley, 3 years; Devon Cuneo, 3 years; David Davidson, 1 year; Angela Evangelou Yanakis, 3 years; Graham Girk, 2 years; Warren Kerr, AM, 3 years; and Bob Olivia, 3 years. So many congratulations to you all. For those of you who are new to Convocation Council, welcome, and we look forward to working with you over the next year. I'd like to express my deepest thanks and appreciation, of course, to retiring members of Convocation Council for their time, their dedication and significant contribution to Convocation and to the university as a whole. Those retiring members are immediate past Warden, Clinical Professor Leslie Kaler, and I feel we should give her a special clap because she was involved in Convocation for so long. She was also on the Senate for many years. She's been an absolute stalwart for UWA, so I'll just a bit of applause there. And that's not to detract rather from the other retiring members, Ms. Emily Bailey, Dr. Simon Dawkins, Mr. Jeff Gunningham and Dr. Nin Kirkham. Thank you all.